So, should we move on to the next one? Yeah, what do you have cooking up, John?
Yeah, so this one is going to be peer based. So what I'm thinking here is like when you're hiring somebody or you're applying for a job and then let's say you're getting close to offer, references are normally something that come into the process. If you're hiring um or seriously considering a candidate, you want to know that they've done what they said they did and they were at a company for, X amount of time, those kinds of things. You also want to look for red flags that might not have come up during the interview process. And the trouble there is, I would say more than anything else, people will normally genuinely either say good things about the candidate or they'll say neutral things. So when it's a good thing and you already want to hire this person, it's not helpful because hey, I really like her and I think she's perfect for this role. And now you're telling me that you really liked working with her and she was great at what she did. Well, that's great, but I was going to hire her anyway. And if you didn't like her, you're not going to tell me that because you don't want her to come back to you and say, hey, why did you say that about me? Now I'm not getting this job. And in some cases, if you say the wrong thing as an ex-employer, you could get sued. People do that sometimes, right or wrong. You very well could be in the wrong with what you communicate. So the thing is, if you're a hiring manager and you're about to make an offer, references are usually almost a waste of time. Personally, I've never changed my hiring decision based on a reference. I don't even think I know anybody who's changed their hiring decision based on a reference. It's such an obscure thing. And the reason, again, is it's either positive or it's neutral. But as long as it's not negative, you're not going to change your mind because you already are sold on that candidate. So what I'm thinking is that because it's not that helpful, what if we had a new kind of reference system and it was based on specific skills that that person had? So basically, we call it a peer skill rating app, and it helps people gain confidence in that person's skills with third-party references that are both qualitative and quantitative. So the rating app itself, people would do a survey, let's say on a family member, a friend, a colleague, an old employee, that kind of thing, and they would rate them on specific skills that are relevant to that person's field. Those could also be personality-based, whatever it is. So it goes beyond just references and it shows insights into that person. And it's a blend of numerical and specific examples. So you could see that this person is 4 stars at public speaking. And here are some examples of where they presented, where you saw them present. People would be incentivized to complete these surveys because there's the whole idea of reciprocity. If you complete a survey for somebody, then that person will complete a survey for you. And so you get all these people completing surveys for each other and eventually start building up a large database of people who have lots of references. Everyone helps everyone. It would be very community driven. So one of the great benefits to this is you give power to people without connections. For example, a lot of people don't have direct connections to somebody like a family member or family friend who works at a Big 4 accounting firm, let's say. And let's say you want to go into accounting and your dream is to go work at Deloitte or whatever. As somebody trying to move into that company, you're probably going to either have to go and build that network yourself, which can be very challenging, possible, but challenging, or you have to apply the old-fashioned way, in which case the odds are you might get overlooked because the people with the first dibs are always the people who know people. But this would give people an external way to validate themselves. Because basically what would happen is if you have somebody who has 30 different people who scored them really well on financial reporting or on market trend and performance research, let's say if we're talking about marketing, you have a pretty good grasp that that person is good at what they do in that field. And this is all coming from different people. They have different examples of how that person did those different things. And if you could quickly glance over that, you would really appreciate what that person has done, especially if it is substantial. So I think that you'd have people who are from, maybe less well connected. So it could be people who are newer to the country or something. And maybe they have lots of connections here or overseas that have seen their work and they know this person is amazing at what they do. Well, they're not going to use those people as references unless they're relevant in their industry or unless they were at maybe a competitor within Canada. But in this case, they could, because it's a community driven reference. And you're having lots of these references, not just one or two. I guess the sheer number of people giving testimonials for that one person for that specific skill, it's much more likely to be taken seriously by the company that's hiring that person. So that's what my idea is here, a community driven peer skill rating app.
Interesting. So I guess it's a question of who your first kind of customer would be. But
Mm.
is this something that you could see being like a required part of an application process where it's like, oh yeah, like go on this app and like this and do this for a referencing process?
Yes, maybe. I mean, I could see it plugging into a lot of different ecosystems, like, for example, LinkedIn. Maybe there would be a LinkedIn integration. So you'd see on somebody's LinkedIn profile that they have this score. Right now, there are recommendations on LinkedIn, and there are also like the ability to like give somebody a thumbs up on a specific skill, but it's not an explicit survey. And I find that some people have just given lots of likes to other people's skills. They've done a lot of upvotes, so they have a lot of upvotes. That kind of thing goes on. And it's never backed by any specific examples. So yeah, I would see that it would plug into something like LinkedIn. It could plug into different hiring management systems. So like an applicant tracking system, for example, normally you'd be able to like add links to like your resume or your portfolio website or whatever. Maybe you'd be able to upload your peer skill rating to a certain section of those applicant tracking systems. And if it became substantial enough, it would become a fairly standard way of people applying to roles. Or people would include right on the resume. I mean, heck, just have a link.
Yeah, I was just thinking this is just like a social resume.
Basically. Yeah.
It seems like a lot of your ideas, John, are rooted in just the fact that like, yeah, resumes don't really work anymore. It's like it's so much more complicated.
Yes. Yeah, I think like once upon a time, like 50 years ago, a company would get like 10 or 20 applicants or something, and a lot of them would come in person and hand a physical resume to the company, or they'd send them a physical letter. And when there were a limited number of numbers of applicants, you'd look through every single one and you'd take all of them seriously. But then you have job boards come out in the 90s, and they just exploded. I mean, from the mid 90s all the way up until like the late 2000s, job boards were the way to find a job. And then LinkedIn came out, of course, and that's more than just a job board. I mean, it's a full resume along with many other things. So yeah, I think that over time we're going to continue seeing that evolve.
Interesting.
We're going to see newer and better ways for people to get themselves up.
It's funny you mentioned the fact that, like, yes, like there used to be a time where a company would announce that they're hiring and then, they get like 20, 30 people kind of, sending in their physical resumes or coming in person to deliver that. I've seen so many memes where people are just saying like, oh yeah, like my dad told me to go, like I told my dad I was looking for a job. And then he said like, yeah, like just go to the company, walk up to someone and hand it to them in person. I actually really wonder, there's got to still be people who are doing that. And I wonder how it works for them.
Not sure. I think if you're going to take that kind of approach and nobody else is taking it, you'll probably at least have a conversation, maybe a quick conversation. But could be a way to do that. Depends on the person you're talking to. Like, I mean, a lot of people might just get annoyed by it and say, hey, like, here's, go apply online like everyone else. But you might hit somebody who is open to having a conversation and they like the initiative.
Yeah, it's true. I guess that's mostly where events come into play today to sort of like formalize doing that. But yeah, it was funny that you mentioned that. So is this something that you see as being, is this Is this an app that people download?
Probably more as a web app, because I don't know if you'd use this exclusively as a way to apply for jobs. I think it would be more like an accreditation or something like that. And it would plug into a lot of different other websites and apps. So yeah, probably just a web app.
How much do you think it would cost to just build something like that?
But I don't know, actually. I mean, the technology itself would be pretty simple, I think. It would be mostly about like designing a page and then having a way for people to complete surveys. There would be a few elements to it, but it wouldn't be like it's using any kind of advanced conversations like bot conversations or anything. I think it could be templated surveys built into this site, at least to start. And the nice thing is there's no network effect necessary to get going with it. Literally, you could have 5 people on there and they just include a link to their reference page. And heck, if you're a recruiter, you're going to use that because that's actually super helpful.
So is it almost like a link in bio situation where it's just like a kind of another, it's not like your own personal website, but it's a link that you can go to where, that would actually add some really interesting social proof if people could just have that as a public page of like, yes, this is a list, rather than, having a portfolio. Like it's very common for creatives to have a portfolio website, but for those types of people that, what they do is not so visual, it might, it could really just be a page of like just reviews of them or, references. But that could be a really interesting way of sort of like adding a bit of virality to it, because you could sort of encourage people to use that as like, well, if you have your LinkedIn account up and everybody's got that website, the available website link that they could put. And, a lot of the time, like, I think for all of us, it's us plugging our own companies and agencies. But for people who aren't falling into that category and they might not be so sure about like what website to put on there, that could actually be a great way of, piggybacking off of LinkedIn by just saying like, yeah, this is something to make your LinkedIn better, but it's not coming from LinkedIn, because everyone knows that LinkedIn is just loaded with bots. Like they're deleting millions of bots off of the platform every month. And on my LinkedIn, the part of the platform where it says, your references or recommendations about what you do, I have some of these recommendations, but I don't know who these people are that put them there. I'm pretty sure that they just had some auto clicker do it, and they probably just did that as a means of getting me to look at their profile to check out the services that they provide.
There are tools that will have automatically have you view other people's profiles. And yeah, it is bot driven. Just to get into virality, one of the key things here is that you're asking your family, friends, and colleagues to score you on stuff. So let's say that I'm looking for a job. I send it out to like 50 people that I know, knowing that not everyone's going to take the time to do that survey. But let's say that 10 of them actually do the survey. They give me my scores. Now I'm really happy. I can use that. I could put on my LinkedIn. I could put on my resume. If somebody asks me for my references, I just share that page with them. So that's good for me. But then all those people who did that, they're all now aware of how that software works. And the software can send them an email within a few days of them completing the survey saying, hey, so-and-so just got a job. Thank you for helping them by completing that survey. If you're currently looking for work, click here to create an account and have others do the same for you. And then that way you have immediate motivation for that person to go and create their own account and have other people do the survey.
That's the definition of viral right there. That's so true.
So virality built into the product, just baked right into the core product.
Yeah, that's actually that one really comes together nicely when you think about like, that call to action at the end of just, hey, do you need references as well? Just click this button and then, send out your link and get people responding to your reference request.
It sounds like Josh just learned about referral marketing and MLMs. This is a playbook for MLMs, but like in this case, you're not on an MLM. You're just like referring to people.
and there's no strings attached financially. It's purely just to help each other. So
No, that's so true. Like on the from the perspective of like, the users, like, yeah, you're just giving them free value. That's just totally. So why wouldn't they want to get on that platform? And then, again, I think it's one of those things where once you reach a certain level of scale with this, then you probably have a lot of, enterprise solutions that, you could start providing for.
enough data and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Jonathan, that's a really cool idea there. I think that it's the type of thing that again sounds really feasible for someone to actually go out there and do with like on a really small level. So yeah, I definitely double click that one.